I know you were calm and composed, and you were sending me text that sorry I can't meet today, my house burned down.
I try to make it look easy from the outside, but in the inside, it's not as easy. You have to find a silver lining in everything. And again, some things are out of your control. I couldn't control my house burning down. I learned from the older guys when I was playing football that this game isn't going to last forever, and you have to start to prepare, for life after football. The average career is 3 years, and I was lucky enough to fool him for 11 years. Like I said, you have to have a thirst for knowledge, and I was the crazy guy that was like staying up late at night and studying European markets and analyzing the trade.
Hello, and welcome to Inception to Infinity, a podcast series in which we discuss ideas, insights, and inflection points that bring meaningful changes to leadership, business, and life. I'm your host, Anupam Satyasheel, the founder and CEO of Occams Group. Today, it's my honor to welcome Chris Hetherington, an 11-year NFL veteran who transitioned successfully to entrepreneurship. Chris got his undergrad from Yale University. He went on to pursue an amazing decade-plus long career with NFL and then pursued further education at Harvard and Wharton before coming to boardrooms. Chris has had an amazing journey as an individual, as a leader, and as an entrepreneur. In today's conversation, we'll listen to his experiences, what's his thesis of leadership, and what is he trying to build at Fathead, which is an iconic brand known to consumers for its life-size decals. Chris, welcome to Inception to Infinity. It's truly my honor.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really thrilled to be here, Anupam.
Chris, I will dive right into it. From people that know you for longer than I have known, I get the impression that you're some kind of alien, incredibly capable at different things. You played three sports in college: baseball, football, and
I played two sports, football and baseball. I played three sports in high school, football, hockey, and baseball. Hockey was my best sport as a kid, and then ended up playing football and baseball in college. But yeah, love sports. Played a ton of sports as a kid, and it's been a big part of my life.
you happen to go to a place called Yale, which is obviously very difficult to get in. So was that based on your amazing athletic abilities, or you just were good with studies as well?
Football helped, football and baseball. I was a good student. I always took academics very seriously. I had a great role model when I was younger. My brother, who's 10 years older, went to Princeton University, and I played Yale youth hockey as a kid. And so it was always my dream to go to Yale. And so, went to a prep school in Connecticut called Avon All Farms, and really, I felt like I was really prepared academically and athletically. And yeah, I mean, football and baseball helps, athletics help, but you still have to have the qualifications certainly to be accepted to an Ivy League school.
In my experience, all people who are fantastic at sports and athletics, they usually don't fancy going into a hardcore finance or a technical kind of entrepreneurship. But you, from what I see, decided to build on your academic rigor after your fantastic career got over. And you worked for a hedge fund for some time, didn't you?
Correct.
What was that about?
It was great. I mean, look, the transition from being a professional athlete to the real world is pretty difficult. And for me, really, football taught me that discipline and resilience really just aren't traits, right? They're systems. And on the field, it's about preparation and consistency and grit and accountability to your teammates. And in business, those same values carry over, Anupam. Whether you're leading a company or building a community, you rely on that same mindset. Show up every day with discipline, adapt under pressure, and really pursue excellence as if the scoreboard is always on, right? And so I learned from the older guys when I was playing football that this game isn't going to last forever, and you have to start to prepare, for life after football. The average career is 3 years, and I was lucky enough to fool them for 11 years and played a long time. But the money wasn't what it is today, and you have to have a growth mindset, and you have to, want to establish a new identity, so to speak, and certainly use the same traits that and systems as I mentioned to, carry into your next endeavor. But for me personally, it's hard, like I said, and I felt very, very lucky. I joined a hedge fund in 2008. The founder was a an Ivy League football player. I played against him in college, and I felt like, it was my next locker room, right? It was a bunch of individuals that were, work hard, play hard, and a lot of them were Ivy League or ex-Ivy League athletes, and as opposed to, maybe going to Goldman Sachs at 34 years old and joining a 2-year training program with 22, 23-year-old kids. And so I felt like I really found my next quote unquote locker room, and it worked out really well. And, I showed up every day and grinded and tried to, work harder than the next guy and learn from everybody. And, I joined the hedge fund. I didn't even know what an option was in 2008. And so that really required me to work hard and learn a new playbook. And I dove in. I made a lot of mistakes, and of course, you have your doubts, but I knew I was going to show up every day and work hard and learn as fast as I could, and it worked out. I had a bunch of different roles there. I've been a 4-time CEO. I've run a couple companies. I lived in Tokyo. They sent me out to Tokyo to run a business, and so I felt like I got really lucky, Anupam, with my transition. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, don't have that same setup, so to speak.
So when you're playing NFL, you're on TV cameras all day long. Even when you're not on camera, somebody's trying to find juicy stories on you. The spotlight never goes away. Hedge fund is a very different world. They are clandestine. It's everything is hush hush. They how they trade, where they trade, nothing is known. Tell me a bit about how did that go from being in complete limelight to quiet corner where you really are doing a lot of desk job and thinking and strategies, but really, did you miss the limelight? Was it too much of going behind the curtains? What was that like?
I was a quarterback in college, so I got I was in the limelight. When I was in the NFL, I was a fullback, so I didn't get I wasn't in the limelight as much. But it's all the same thing, right? It's really following those systems and those traits that you develop as your time as a professional athlete. And it was a different time then, Anupam. We didn't have social media. So the access to information and the limelight was different. We were on ESPN and various networks, and of course you do media, you do interviews. I had my own radio show a couple times in a couple different cities I played in, but it's a different world. But you have to be one, with that transition, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable and kind of being a rookie again. When you're a professional athlete, it's like your whole days are planned, and everybody's there to make sure you're doing your job right, and you're comfortable, and you're healthy, and your mind is right. And when you enter that different kind of landscape and in business, uh, it's very different. But I felt like for me, just doing the same things I did when I was a football player, really, really helped. And you have to have a growth mindset. Like I said, you have to have a thirst for knowledge. And I was the crazy guy that was like staying up late at night and studying European markets and analyzing the trades I made after the day and what I did wrong, and establishing great relationships with the brokers. That was actually very key. And I'm not gonna lie, it helped. Like being a former NFL player, people want to give you trades, or people want to be around you sometimes, and you have to, you have to accept that in a very authentic way, and maximize that in an authentic way. But yeah, it's two different worlds, but same systems.
So all the things you have done, whether it's playing NFL 11 years, it's beyond, well beyond the average, or your professional career, they all call for insane amount of energy and dedication. I remember reading somewhere that you said every morning at 4:44 a.m. when the alarm goes off, you pretty much wake up. I know you have a relationship with number 44, your jersey number. I have one of those autographed. Um, and then sometimes you're up till 2 o'clock studying charts. I mean, how do you maintain the energy? I mean, that's in today's world, attention and energy are so difficult to manage. People are constantly being drained out. What's your experience, your guidance to the entrepreneurs who are trying to build something of value, but they struggle with getting attention, getting energy, giving energy?
Yeah, look, I think energy is your greatest currency. Yeah, I mean, I still train like I'm a professional athlete. I prioritize exercise and nutrition and mindfulness, sleep, recovery, just like I was an athlete. And fitness keeps me sharp. Meditation gives me clarity, and but most importantly, I try to align my work with purpose, right? When you're passionate about the mission, it fuels you even in the toughest moments. And so, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, and to your point, we live in this attention economy, right? We're always being flooded with distractions and ads, and people are scrolling through their social medias and stuff. And so that takes a lot of discipline to kind of block out the noise. But like I said, your energy is your greatest currency. And I always felt like, I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better leader if I take care of my body and I take care of my mind, and that gives me the energy to perform, at the highest level.
Chris, no one gets to where you have got without having some serious setbacks. I'm aware of two at least. You have, I mean, my heart went out to you when I came to your house got burned down in Palisades earlier this year.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know all the details of how it happened. And I mean, I can't even imagine what goes through somebody's mind when their house literally burns down. And I know you were calm and composed, and you were sending me text that, sorry, I can't meet today, my house burned down. And it was like, geez, this is not the response people typically have. And I'm reasonably sure with aging parents, there's plenty of challenges. And I do know that you every now and then get some health issues, which are nothing major. You obviously ace all that. This is a lot for a normal human being to manage. But you talked about systems, you talked about discipline through which you come out of it. But this not every person is not able to do it. What is your secret sauce to be able to take those setbacks and then convert them into roaring success? Like you make it look really easy, but is there something else which you're not sharing with us beyond the systems and discipline?
I try to make it look easy from the outside, but in the inside, it's not as easy. I've been a man of faith. I think there's certain things in my control, and certain things that are out of my control. And when you believe in a higher power, you believe that you have to find a silver lining in everything. And again, some things are out of your control. I couldn't control my house burning down, but I can control how I react to it. I can control how I be a leader of the household, and rise up for my kids, and help them overcome this devastation, or be a partner to my wife, and work with her to make good decisions for our family and our kids. And so failure has been one of my greatest teachers. You and I have talked about this. I've always had an unhealthy fear of failure, right? And I've had some ventures that didn't work out, and that's life. Like, business is hard, venture is hard. We know the statistics, and with certain businesses, there were certain headwinds, and all that stuff. But it really forced me to rethink my systems. how I approach people, process, strategy. I've learned that failures or setbacks, they really become the blueprint for future success, right? Reminding me that setbacks are often setups for growth when you more importantly choose to extract the lessons, which I think is key. And so, it's kind of cliche. We used to say this all the time in the NFL. You don't make the same mistake twice, or at least you try not to. And so, I've had some setbacks in my life. I wouldn't say my childhood was the most conventional childhood, and I think I did what I needed to do to become a good human being, and I have a great family. And then and when I was at Yale, I got hurt a few times, and those were setbacks, but not out of my control, so to speak. I can control how I recover and how fast I get back in the field. In the NFL, I had some setbacks as well. I probably, in reality, lost more games than I won in the NFL, and that's hard to swallow. You play in the NFL, it's a bottom line business, and you play the game to win, and you play the game to win championships, and when things don't go your way, you have to reflect on, how the outcome was affected by you or not, and you got to grow from that and become the best player and the best professional you can be. And so, yeah, I mean, failures are blueprints for future success, but you gotta extract those lessons, and I think I've done that well. I think I've gotten better at surrounding myself with people that have a genuine interest in my success and believe in my leadership, and also you have to be smart enough to know what you know and know what you don't know, right? And you have to get involved in stuff that you can really add a lot of value to. And so, with Fathead, I'm thrilled to be in this position. Thrilled to be back in sports again and leverage these relationships I've built over the last 25 years. We have an awesome opportunity to really, grow this company in a very big way. But you have to have the right people, you have to have the right strategy, and things have to go your way. So, that's it in a nutshell. I think meditation has been undoubtedly the best asset in my life. And when you meditate and rely on breathing and relying on, checking out and climb above the situation and analyze it and not react, immediately in certain circumstances. That's really been the key for me. Nothing's easy. Like, I'm a human being, and man, it sucked when my house burned down. It sucked when, all my kids lost everything they own, and I lost 11 years of NFL memories. Like, that is not fun. But what I try to tell my kids is we still have each other. We're healthy, we're safe. We can build another life, and we can, move into another house, and I can buy you more scooters or bicycles and stuff like that. But the most important thing is we have each other, and we're healthy, and we're safe, and we got to be resilient. And I look at my kids, and they've been through COVID, and they've been through, their whole town burning down. Like, that's a lot for kids to go through. And I would say, in a humble way, I'm really proud of the way my wife and I have stepped up as leaders of the household and try to create some sense of normalcy after that devastating incident.
So, Chris, you talked about meditation, but I do know that you are a fan of being stoic. Stoicism is not a well understood concept by and large. People have heard of it, but among all the impressive leaders I know of, I think you practice it as good as it gets. Tell us a little more. What does it involve? What do people have to do to learn that art and science of being stoic?
Yeah, I try to make it as simple as possible. And I mentioned it earlier, Anupam. It's knowing what you can control and what you can't control, and how you react to things when you can't
Can
control the
I
outcome.
ask, like, is it suppressing your feeling or is it different? Like, what exactly do you do when you be stoic?
I think stoicism for me is just in any situation, it's a sense of calmness, and my wife makes these comments like, you're just so, you're the same no matter if our house burns down or if, you scored a winning touchdown on Monday Night Football, right? And but that's the mentality that I try to take. Like I try to have this flow state. And again, it's not easy. Like you got to really work at it and meditate through it and pray through it and all this stuff. But for me, it's a feeling of calmness. And as you know, Anupam, you have a very successful business, but it's not easy on a daily basis. And you have a job as a leader, and you have to be a good influence. You're a father of two great boys. Like, you have to have, at least in my opinion, what I try to do is just have a sense of calmness. And again, it comes down to worrying, controlling what you can control and not letting things that are out of your control affect you in a negative way. And but I think it's, to your point, it's a feeling, it's a sense of calmness, and it's a learned behavior too. Like I haven't always been that way, and I wouldn't say I am far from perfect, but I try to be consistent, especially as a leader and especially as a dad, to two young boys. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
You talked about your boys. Uh, we have two boys. You talked about them as well. They're young. Your kids, my kids are like between 12 and 7
Yep.
years old. This is a very unusual time for children to think about 10 years later, because 10 years later is too far because of AI, because of the crypto movement, currency debasement, international relations being what they are, not to mention we live in California and California has its own peculiar situations. What is your message to parents and more so to children? You and I have talked about sometimes you see a sports coach, and I know you're very involved with your kids who are amazingly athletic, just like you. Um, they're being unreasonably harsh with those children or sometimes being totally tuned out. What is that message to the parents? What should they tell their children when they're 8, 9, 10, 12? And what should children hear from you at this stage?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's an ongoing, there's ongoing work that needs to be done. But for me personally, I try to teach my kids to be kind and great human beings first. And from having manners to looking people in the eye to shaking their hand to saying please, say thank you, just the basic X's and O's of being a good human being, being grateful. And we live in Southern California. We got it pretty good, right? The sun's out almost every day, and we're close to the ocean, and you have to teach your kids to be grateful and you know, you see what's going on in other countries. They don't have it like we do. And so teaching these kids to be very grateful at a young age. And then, you want them to be disciplined. You want to teach them these traits that you learn throughout your life, but you also want them to be kids. And I would say the things I struggle with personally in full transparency is like, I know health and fitness very well. I know what's good to put in your body, and I know what's not good to put in your body. And I don't want to be the crazy guy that never lets my son have birthday cake because I want him to be a kid. And but also, you gotta, it's kind of the 80/20, right? You try to make a lot more good decisions than bad, and kids are going to make mistakes, and they're going to want to eat candy or they're going to want to eat chocolate or whatever. But you still have to get your protein in, and you have to be hydrated and all that stuff. So that's the same in anything in life. And sports, I was lucky enough to be, and I'm saying this in a humble way, like a very good natural athlete, but I worked at it. Every day after school, I was either playing catch in football or shooting hockey pucks into the net or shooting basketballs into the net and that's what I try to teach my kids. And lucky that my kids are good athletes, but they work at it and they have a genuine interest in it. And where I see things go sideways is when the parents put too much pressure on their kids, and especially when they're 9 and 10 years old. And I see these parents and they think their kids are going to play Major League Baseball, and because they are a decent player at 10 years old, and then all of a sudden they're getting them three personal coaches, and they're playing baseball year round, and that's a slippery slope. That's when kids get worn out, or they start to feel the pressure coming down from their dads, and a lot of it's, the parents are trying to live vicariously through their kids, and that's not healthy in any way. And so I've always been very conscious, Anupam, because I played football until I was 34 years old, and I always, try to be the dad to encourage my kids and teach my kids the things that I was never taught at a young age. And that's being a leader, and I could tell my son Jack, you don't have to be a vocal leader, but you need to, lead by example, and show up every day, and work hard and try to get better, and encourage your teammates when they make a bad play, or celebrate the good plays they make, and be humble in the process. And so, yeah, I think in a nutshell, it's just parents have it tough these days, right? There's so many distractions, and there's so much access to information with the internet and with social media, and there's a lot of pressure on young girls to look a certain way or be fit, and people are highlighting these models and actresses, and it's like it's the job of a parent to really set these systems in place, and make sure that your kids are kids, but they're also learning the things, and the traits and the systems to grow up to be good human beings. And whether you want to be a professional athlete, or you want to be a lawyer, or you want to work for a hedge fund or whatever, it's the same stuff. You got to put in the work, you got to be a good person, you got to be grateful, and you got to want to do good things. So, it's a roundabout answer, but I think I boil it down to very simple things as a dad. And I want my kids to know I love them. I tell them I love them, multiple times a day. That's very important, in my opinion. Kids have to know that you love them, and you're going to support them no matter what, unconditionally. If my kid strikes out, I'm like, hey, buddy, that happens. Like, baseball's a game of failure. If you batted 300 in the Major League Baseball, you'd be making 20 million bucks a year. Like, you're doing pretty good.
So you talk about leadership. You are a leader, you have been a leader in sports, in community, in business. It's a rather vague concept for a common person. Most people think leader is about authority, it's about being the boss, it's about having people follow you. But people who actually have been good leaders, like you have been, they know something. Like I heard once from someone was talking about Nelson Mandela, that he used to go with his father and he learned one thing, that the leader speaks last. I believe personally that a leader eats last, like they get the reward of what is left after
Yep.
everybody has been paid off. What is your personal leadership thing? Like, what do you see it as? I know you always put yourself behind your team members, you look out for them. I've seen that in action. You fight very hard for them, even harder than you'll fight for yourself.
Yep.
Tell us about your leadership philosophy.
Yeah, I think, as an athlete, I felt like leadership was about leading by example, right? Having in the NFL, you have to have a high football IQ. You got to know your playbook inside and out, playing through pain, working harder than anyone else. And, in business, I've learned that leadership is less about personal achievement, and more about creating the conditions for others to thrive, right? Today I see leadership as service. It's, listening, it's empowering, it's helping people to see the best in themselves, and get the best out of themselves. And so, yeah, you have to put others first as a leader, but you have to hold people accountable. And I talk about this all the time on other podcasts. Like, I was in Carolina for the Panthers alumni weekend, and we were talking about head coaches, and whether you're a head coach of an NFL team, or you're the head coach of a little league baseball team, or you're the CEO of a company, you have to understand from a psychological standpoint, in my opinion, what it takes to get the best out of each individual person, and then out of your team collectively. And I think back in my career in the NFL, and I had guys that were, old school screaming at you, and I was like, man, that doesn't work. Like, we're professionals. I'm a grown man, like screaming at these players that are making a good living and that, want to be the best player they can be. That doesn't work. And so you have to know leadership is about, you know, having the awareness to understand what it takes to get the best out of people. And culture is certainly a big part of that. You have to have a culture where you empower people to thrive. You have to give constructive criticism. You have to give constructive feedback, and you got to hold people accountable, making sure they're following the playbook. So again, I try to teach my kids to be leaders at a young age, and in a healthy way. Um, but leadership is so important, and I think for me, I'm really proud of the way I've led my family, more importantly than businesses, because in challenging times and adversity, it requires true leaders to either find the silver lining in these adverse situations, or just simply making the best out of the situation, right? So I think leadership is key. We're seeing what's going on in this world, and it's going to take great leaders to get us through these challenging times. And if your business is going through some adversity, it takes leadership to, get you through those challenging times. And when the company is thriving, it takes leadership to make sure that you continue to do the things you're doing to be successful. So, yeah, that's how I think about it.
We talked about thriving through difficult situations or surviving and then thriving. I came to know you the very first time when you were trying to acquire Fathead. I was an investment banker in my previous life. I've seen many deals as Occams as well. That was one unique deal. The terms were unusual. The sellers were, I mean, I won't get into expletives, but those were pretty tense conversations. They were least interested in having any reasonable conversation. I mean, it was a really complex situation. And I saw you take the complexity. This may be anecdotal, but the real question is that you took the complexity and you simplified for everybody around. That is, to quote your COO, Jason, that should go into HBS as a case study. Tell us a bit more about that. What was that whole drama like, and how did you maintain your sanity through that complex situation?
Yeah, it was a very unique deal. There is simplicity and complexity, as you know, and I've learned that simplicity is certainly a superpower, right? In business and in life, like clarity beats complexity. So, that was a challenging time, but if it means something to you, and you understand the importance of it, you are willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish the goal. And the goal was, to acquire this iconic brand, and we were dealing with a challenging situation. And so you have to, kind of climb above the situation, and break through the noise, and set up a strategy of like how you're going to accomplish your goals. And it's kind of a chess match, right? It's if somebody's being super challenging, or being unrealistic about the situation, you have to be very strategic about on how you respond to that. And I think, again, back to meditation and back to stoicism, and it's easy to get super frustrated, and it's easy to react in a very aggressive manner and be like, you're crazy and this and that. But like, we had an unbelievable opportunity to acquire a really special brand, and unfortunately the situation was complex. But in there's got to be some kind of simplicity and complexity. We knew we wanted the business, and we knew we were putting together a really special team, and so we were willing to kind of, break through the noise to figure out a way to get this thing done. And we were able to get it done. And yeah, if it's not a Harvard Business School case study, I don't know what is, right? And we know the unfortunate circumstances, that's transpired after that. And I'm certainly empathetic of that. But, nothing's easy, as you know. And if it was easier, more people would be doing certain things and be in these situations or having these opportunities. But that comes down to leadership too. And I hope the takeaway for you or anybody else that was involved in this situation is like, I like to think I stepped up as a leader and found a way to get it done, because we did. And we celebrated that, and we're like, all right, now it's time for the hard work. Now it's time to go to work. We got this incredible asset and putting together a really great team. Let's put all that drama behind us and let's focus on what it's going to take to build a successful business. And that's what we've done. And it hasn't been easy, but it's certainly worth it. And we're gonna be successful, and we're building a really special brand, and we're expanding distribution, and we're getting into other categories. We're gonna go global. We have big plans for this brand. But I'm grateful for that time. I'm grateful I went through that. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about everybody around me during that time. My teammates, and how important it was to them, and how they reacted to that situation. And again, you got to find the silver linings in every situation, whether it's that situation or my house burning down or, COVID or whatever it is. You got to be, wow, I got through that situation, and I was able to come out on the other end. And I'm grateful I went through that, because I learned a lot during that process.
So you talked about Fathead, you talked about how it has been a phenomenal journey so far. I personally feel that there is, I mean, in the 20th year of this brand, there's much more to look forward to. What's that vision like for you? What do you see Fathead in 2050?
That in 2050 is going to be a global brand. We're going to be hopefully $1 billion company, a lot before that. But it's a special category we're in. Fandom has never been bigger. Our job is to capture these moments that are happening in sports and entertainment and culture and life. And we're smart enough to move at the speed of culture, and whether it be the licenses that we acquire, or building an environment of AI and automation, right? Using AI in a very positive way to create efficiencies in your business, or target customers better, or market better. Um, as you know, technology is a big part of our roadmap, and these decals will become portals or gateways to trigger content and storytelling and interaction, et cetera. So, combining the physical with the digital is on our roadmap. We're super excited about that. And then, like I said, the basic X's and O's of the business. You gotta maximize the current license partnerships we have: NFL, NBA, and MLB, NHL, college or CLC. The custom business, as you know, is a great business for us, and we want to 20x that business, and we want to build upon the technology around the customizer and make it a really, really special product, lead that category in the market. We're up a lot year over year on the custom business, because we've done a good job of marketing it, and it's a great product. And what I said, I think I said this to you a long time ago. It's like, if you're not a fan of the NFL, or you're not a fan of MLB, or you're not a sports guy, well, you're sure as heck a fan of your family or your pets or whatever. So we have something for everybody. We're celebrating life's moments. And so, you got to stick to our systems. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit to this business, and we have these, big plans and sexy plans, if you will. But it comes down to really waking up every day and realizing what your KPIs are. Everybody in the team understanding their roles and responsibilities, and empowering your team to do great things. But like I say all the time, I want everybody to come up with creative ideas, whether it's product innovation or or licenses or whatever, but that idea has to have an ROI associated with it, right? It has to make business sense. And so when you start to instill that, philosophy in your team, it tends to be a game changer. So um, it's a special brand. I mean, sports, you're seeing what's going on in sports right now. You got private equity starting to get involved, and you're seeing how big of a business youth sports has become. And what is it, $65 billion business by 2030? Like, we have a real big opportunity as a company with in youth sports. And so we're excited about the future.
Last question from my side, Chris. You have had a phenomenal career. You've achieved so much. I mean, your achievement as a sports person is enough for somebody to feel fantastic for the rest of their lives. But then you went ahead and you did it for, as an entrepreneur, you're building an amazing brand, uh, building it further up from what you already came in as. What's the legacy of Chris Hetherington? What will the world remember you as in 2250?
Good question. I mean, legacy for me isn't about stats or titles. First it's being, the best husband and father and influence to my two young sons, right? To raise them to be great and kind human beings. Next I want to be a man of faith. I want to really lean into that in a big way. And then next it's about impact, right? I want to be remembered as someone who helped people unlock more in themselves than they thought possible, right? Whether on the field or in business or in life. And so, my next chapter is about continuing to build platforms that inspire growth and connection and purpose at scale. On paper, I've had a good life. I got a good education. I, did my executive MBAs at Harvard and Wharton. I played in the NFL and I worked for a hedge fund. But that doesn't mean you're fulfilled, and that doesn't mean that you're happy. And so my biggest thing is I want to wake up every day and be excited to wake up and see the smile on my kids' faces and kiss my wife, good morning, and go off to work or get on Zoom or whatever, and really, really be happy with what I'm doing. And I don't care how much money you make or don't make. It's all about purpose, right? I want to lead a purpose-driven life. I want to teach others to live a purpose-driven life. And that's important to me. I'm far from perfect, Anupam, and I never won a Super Bowl. I wish I won a Super Bowl. There's certain things that I wish I accomplished, but I'm very grateful for my life. I'm very grateful for my family. I'm very grateful for friends like you in my life that have been good influences and others. And I just wake up every day and try to be the best I can be. And I have some days I have bad days, but I try to have a hell of a lot more good days than bad days.
For the audience, where can people learn more about you? Where are you found?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Our website for Fatheads is fathead.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on social media, which I need to work on when I have some more time. Head44. I have a small presence on Twitter, or X, excuse me. But yeah, I think for me, it's about living life, right? Like, I have this great company and I have these great teammates and we have this awesome opportunity, and we got to live your life. And you gotta, I think the more I can live my life, the better leader I can be for my company. I'll give you an example. Like, we don't have a vacation policy at Fathead because I want people to live their life. I mean, when they're working, they got to work and they got to grind. And when they go on vacation, they got to make sure that people are covering for them. But like, life is about living life, and the more you can feel fulfilled on a daily basis, the better you're going to be at your job.
Well, Chris, thank you. And for our audience, to learn more about our podcast, Inception to Infinity, you can follow it on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn. Do subscribe. We will keep trying our best to bring in amazing content like opportunity to speak with Chris Hetherington. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, guys.